Hello there, and welcome to my home renovation video. For the past 2 years, I've been working on my house and yard, trying to improve everything, and I put together all the clips of my journey. So let's start with the backyard. You can see this huge ditch right here. Definitely a tripping hazard, so I decided to get rid of this. It was about 3 to 4 feet deep at some points. This was a wild day. There's construction happening on the main road outside my neighborhood, and a worker accidentally hit a water main and flooded the neighborhood. Horrible thing, but one positive that came from it was me getting to see the overflow of water and what it looks like in a drastic situation, how fast the ditch fills up. This natural disaster, if you will, showed me where to put the dry well to catch that water and then to flow it through PVC pipes for a French drain downhill. I didn't have a full-size chainsaw yet, so I used an electric mini one in the meantime. The second step of this ditch project was to remove the deck. And the reason why is because some of that ditch actually runs under this part of the deck. The plan was to install a French drain system later, and this part of the deck was in the way. Also, I wanted to grade the area around this deck and under it. I'm just shaking it a little bit to try to loosen it up, see what else needs to be cut. I'm digging some concrete out here and just kind of working into the night. Wanted to get done that day. This is the same day, and I'm just really trying to finish this last limb. You'll see all the rope and ties, just trying to not hit the fence, being really careful. It started raining too. This wasn't really fun, but I finished that. Lots of cleanup work here. This was really satisfying because it was easy and it was just therapeutic, really. This stump took a while to get out because it was about 32 inches by 30 inches, and my chainsaw blade was definitely not that long, so I had to even try to use a crowbar to try to pry it up a little bit. I chose this electric chainsaw for a fast start and to not be as loud, but if I had to do it over, I would buy a gas-powered chainsaw with a 20-inch blade, which I ended up doing eventually. In terms of power, I just bought a bunch of Temu 8-amp batteries, and they were decent, but I had to cut my days short because I had to recharge all of them. Get in 8 cubic yards of gravel delivered, and you can see we tried to get it all on the cardboard, but it actually just kind of poured out onto the grass and made it very difficult to clean up later. And this is my Buick, because I don't have a truck. I wish I did, but yeah, you do what you gotta do. Needed this piping for my French drain. In hindsight, I definitely should have waited for the graders to just pick all this up with their skid steer and move it to the backyard, because that would have taken them a few minutes instead of hours on my end. Site supervisor. Here's me just being an idiot. Here's a very cool machine, remote controlled stump grinder. Very nice, wish I had one. Site supervisor leading by example. Retaining wall blocks, making sure the wall's level. Hammering the holes in the drywall for the French drain to go through. I placed the drywall right there to catch any water runoff. Chiseling some blocks front and back to help break the block up. Construction glue. I'm putting a block on top after I glue down a block just to make the block do the work. Then I use a soft concrete hammer to get the blocks nice and flat. Retaining wall is done. 2 landscaping companies that quoted me recommended that they bring triaxles worth of dirt to fill that ditch, but I said, I already have a lot of dirt, it's from this hill, so why not put the dirt from that hill into the ditch, save a lot of money on dirt. So that's what the graders did. They used all the dirt from the hill, and there was actually extra dirt they had to haul off. Watching all that dirt fill that huge trench, which I think was about 60 feet long and 15 to 20 feet wide at certain points, very satisfying. These guys mostly use screws to connect the PVC pipes, but they also use PVC primer and cement at some points because I had it lying around. The man, what do you think? Gotta get stairs for the men. I had to cut a lot of roots on that hill so I could plant some evergreens. Just putting the gate up temporarily, I would later put new concrete footings in with my dad. This is either the same day or the next day after the big grading project. In this shot, it's early November in Nashville, Tennessee, so every day counts. And it's already too late really to get a full yard of grass, but I wanted to get at least a little bit so it wouldn't be as muddy throughout the winter and early spring. Just doing some pressure washing here, waiting for the trees to show up. And here they are. You can see some of my inspiration here for why I chose these trees. This is beautiful Switzerland. I did some fun night gardening and also put some solar-powered string lights all around the fence. I put gravel between the trees and also put mulch about 2 to 3 inches away from the trunks. Then I put a big line of mulch just to make it more of a section of the yard and split it apart from the grass. I planted the evergreens in sort of a box formation so you'd have privacy from every angle and it'd also be this kind of beautiful garden surrounding you. There used to be a patio here and there's this big block of it remaining, so I'm chiseling that up and using a blade for concrete on my circular saw with some water so it cools down the blade. It also helps me cut through the stone a little bit easier. I wanted to bury the backyard downspout and route all that water to the front instead of the back. My neighbor Trin and I paired up on this project and put in a French drain, and also buried the front downspout to connect to that French drain system. Before and after. All the landscaping stones here are from the old patio block. I put a few blueberry bushes in and an apple tree between them. Site manager on the hunt, making sure no hooligans, also known as bunnies, break into the work site and disrupt our work. My friend here heard that I was going in the crawl space soon and he just wanted to provide emotional support. I'm looking for puddles of water to see if there's anything I need to address. Hello there, friend. Cutting 10-foot PVC pipe for another French drain I'm putting in. This is connected to the 60-ish foot French drain system when another 10 feet right into my neighbor's yard. Thank you again, Trent, for this. I asked him, he said it was totally okay. It's where the water wants to go, unfortunately. I tried planting emerald trees at the front here, but they didn't really like it because there's not much sun, so I ended up having to transplant them to the side of the house. I put a green giant in between these two emeralds just to mix it up a little bit. Gutter cleaning. Hired a contractor to put in a few French drains for me. Definitely needed a break. To save money, I decided to do the rest of the French drain system myself, so whoop-de-doo. I bought these bags of gravel from Lowe's just because I didn't want to have gravel delivered. What I learned when I had a ton of gravel delivered is that the gravel kind of just stays in your yard forever. It's hard to get every single stone up, especially if you have a lot of gravel delivered, but this project called for a lot less. This French drain system is connected to one of the back downspouts and also another little system collecting some water elsewhere in the yard. Then that's all going into one pipe. Gravel, landscape fabric is all below that, and then I wrap that in a burrito wrap with landscaping staples to keep it closed. I like using a good tamper tool to get the ground somewhat flat. This is the guest bathroom, and the first order business here is to get rid of the popcorn ceiling. I used a fertilizer sprayer with water and some dish soap mixed in. This helps loosen the popcorn ceiling, makes it easier to scrape off. Mudding the ceiling. Had to mud the wall too and used an electric drywall sander, taking out the plumbing fixtures. Then drained the toilet to take it out. Using a reciprocating saw to cut up the tub. Crowbar came in handy to lift the tub up at certain points. Using a hammer to help break up the tub as well. The respirator I'm wearing was definitely helpful. It smelled pretty bad in there. Putting all of this into contractor bags. This is before I had my 16-gallon DeWalt shop vac, which I really love now. Mini crowbar and hammer, getting the panels off, glue and nails behind. Prying out the vanity. I replaced the old valves with shark bites because the old valves were in pretty bad shape. First coat of Kills 3 primer. Taking the old shower wall out. I'm using a trim tool with a hammer to get the staples out and then cutting up the floor with a utility knife. My dad using a hole saw for where the copper pipe is going to be. My wonderful and beautiful mother cleaning the house while Dad and I do the bathroom project. Cutting the subfloor a little bit to make room for the tub. Dad soldering from the crawl space, his favorite. My dad's in the crawl space while I'm up here and we're doing a plumbing test and checking for leaks.
Okay, cold is still dripping.
I think we put the new tub in, but then had to take it back out to adjust for the new drain. And Dad's just cutting a little more with a reciprocating saw. Screwing the tub into the studs. Also putting in new studs because there were 24-inch centers and my dad wisely wanted to do 16-inch centers. It also really helped for later when we put all the cement board up and tiles so the tiles would be flat. This paint is for further waterproofing the cement board. I made this to increase the height of the vanity to about 36 inches. New fan. I moved the light higher to accommodate my new mirror. I also moved the electrical outlet up to make it to code. I also put an outlet on the bottom there for under cabinet lighting. Starting the tiling and using a tile saw and then a jigsaw for some harder cuts. I found out later though that using a tile saw at an angle or using an angle grinder is easier for harder cuts. I'm using a leveling system to help the tiles stay flat against the wall. Also, I'm using large format tile mortar and putting it on the wall and also applying it to the back of the tiles. Using the 90% coverage rule for the back of the tiles. Knocking off the clips after about 24 hours. Then grouting. Painting is done. Getting the vanity ready to put in. The green box is where I'd cut for that lower outlet. Cutting inside the vanity with my oscillating saw to make more room for the plumbing. Using a black gel stain for the bottom of the vanity. Working on the top outlet. Old outlet to new outlet. I had some leftover tile from my master bathroom project, so I used this for the backsplash of the vanity. I moved the light junction box up as well to help match the height of the outlet. Using my jigsaw for the LVP flooring I'd put down. Cutting some of the trim to make room for the LVP. Floor is done. I chose 6-inch tall square baseboards for a more modern look. I'm drilling holes to connect the shower door frame. I'm using a hacksaw to cut the shower door frame to fit. And that's the bathroom, what it first looked like to what it looks like now. Painting the closet doors for the guest room. Painting the closet trim. I had popcorn ceiling in my whole house, and the guest room is the first ceiling that I started with. As is always true in paint type work, the prep takes the most time. A lot of plastic, Dexter style. I tried a 14-inch drywall knife, but it just didn't feel very maneuverable. The plastic started to fall because of the tape failing from the water from the sprayer I was doing on the ceiling. So I got picture pins and pinned them into the tape to hold the plastic. That shop vac had quite a time cleaning up that popcorn ceiling. This is the first ceiling I did, and I'm wearing a hazmat suit because I was trying to be super careful. I read that 1980 homes and older homes might have been subject to asbestos if they had popcorn ceiling and you were trying to remove it. But after this room, I calmed down a bit because my house is from 1986 and I also had about 6 more rooms to do. So I just said, I'll be okay. My favorite blade for scraping popcorn was a 10-inch blade. Then I liked using a level 5 blade for skim coating, just like the patch dudes on YouTube. Mudding the ceiling with the 1 1/4 inch nap, and also using a 6-inch drywall knife for the corners and where the wall meets the ceiling. I'm using lightweight joint compound mixed with a little bit of water. For the ceilings, I discovered that using 1 coat of light joint compound was much better than doing 2 coats. And the reason why is because I was doing 1 coat and then sanding with 220 grit sandpaper, and then doing another coat of joint compound with 150 grit. And I just thought, I feel like I'm doing twice the work for the same result. And I found that sanding is really the most important part of a ceiling project like this. You can make all kinds of ridges with the joint compound. It's really okay as long as you get a thick layer of joint compound and make it somewhat smooth. And then once you sand, that's when the really important work comes in, making sure there's no ridges or marks in the ceiling. Just to recap, apply 1 thick coat of lightweight joint compound, smooth it out with a level 5 blade and a 6-inch knife for corners and edges. Then after about 24 hours or once it's dried, you can sand it with 150 grit sandpaper and really pay attention to those ridges. Sand out everything you see. Kills 3 primer or a high-hide drywall primer. And then I recommend painting with a ceiling paint, which is also high-hide, twice. You can prime once or twice, and definitely though, paint twice. I also took out all the carpet in the house and decided to replace it with LVP, and these are my top choices I'm trying to choose from. Replacing the dishwasher. Dad and I put in a new thermostat. Using my trim tool to get the baseboard out. Pliers for the carpet edges. Utility knife for cutting the carpet in sections. Rolling a row up and then putting it in a contractor bag. Preparing for the floor. Used a mix of the trim tool and a shovel to get the staples out. Installing a fan with a light so I don't have to have a floor lamp in the way. Cleaning up the staples. Checking the level of the floor. Trying to use an orbital sander to smooth out the floor, and then wood putty to fill in the gaps. But this was my first floor, and this didn't work. What I learned a lot later, and really wished I knew at this point in time, was all I needed was a different sander and to use 40 to 60 grit sandpaper on those white lines, which are essentially where the plywood boards meet each other, and there's a little gap in between. And the gap for me was curving upwards instead of downwards. All I had to do was sand those peaks down, which is an okay problem to have. But if you have a house where the floor dips into the crawl space, that's a harder problem to solve, because then you do have to look into self-leveling compound, or maybe just applying the self-leveling compound to that dip part. But I would be extremely cautious about doing that. Do some more research, see if there's any other solutions you can do to fill in that gap before you resort to concrete. Because trust me, you don't want to be in the situation I was in. I saw a lot of YouTube videos for using self-leveling compound to prep a subfloor. What I didn't know is that it would turn out to be a total disaster and put me about a month behind on all my renovation projects. Self-leveling compound is essentially concrete when it dries, and it's crucial to get the exact right consistency and spreading of this. This was the next day after it dried. You can see all kinds of bumps. This sort of job requires 3 people, where you have 1 person mixing the self-leveling compound, 1 pouring it, and 1 spreading it, and I was doing it all alone and definitely shouldn't have. I tried doing a second coat, but made it even worse. I messed up the subfloor so bad that I took it out and prepped for my dad to come help and put in a new one. This was definitely my least favorite project. There was dust everywhere. It was really hard to see. It was especially dangerous for where the floor met the wall. I tried to use a hammer as much as I could, but the angle grinder we used was the right tool for the job. However, it was still dangerous. I had to take my dad to a patient first due to a pretty bad cut from the angle grinder. And then he met Arturo standing outside Lowe's looking for work, and he was so great. And they got in this beautiful subfloor.
So just a little.
Oh, Dad. It looked really bad, but he was fine. Arturo is using a spade bit for the balusters. Banging in some blocks under the deck stairs. Added some solar-powered candles and lights. Dad cutting some baseboards for the guest room before he leaves. As Gordon Ramsay might say, baseboards in, guest room done. After TLC to the baseboards, of course. What the master bedroom used to look like. Time to remove the popcorn. Arturo helping with skim coating. Hallway. Laundry room. When you don't use a shop vac when sanding. The old master closet. Since I was going to paint this master closet, I thought might as well take out the ceiling as well. Trying to get this joint compound to dry so I can sand it same day. Cutting a bigger gap in the subfloor for any shifts over time. Checking the level and where I need to sand. This is what I should have done in the guest bedroom, but I didn't know at the time. I bought this sander specifically for sanding the subfloor, and I was using a shop vac, which helped reduce a lot of dust. Creak testing the subfloor. In the crawl space, fixing the creaks below the floor before fixing them on top. Dad and I put a dehumidifier in the crawl space. Master bedroom walls and ceilings are painted. Subfloor is ready for flooring. Baseboards are on. This is for my office/music studio. Bunch of baseboards for the house. Dad put on a new screen door, and he's doing some sanding for the main door to open and close more easily. Dad being a saint, painting baseboards for me. He knows I hate painting, so he's helping me out there. Cutting some drywall in the kitchen to move a light switch that was hidden behind the refrigerator and moving it to the other side for easy access. Dad coping some shoe molding for the master bedroom. Birds chilling. Kitchen ceiling is done and new countertops. Living room ceiling drying off. Hallway done. Living room floor done. Giving the deck a fresh coat. Paint sprayers are really nice, especially for detailed lattice work like this. Time to rust a little bit. Bern, Switzerland. Love this river. Beautiful Switzerland. Back at it and cleaning the baseboards after caulking. Dad installing a few bathroom vents and kitchen vent that come out through the roof. I had this memory foam mattress pad just laying around, and it was perfect actually for Dad to use it to stay safe on the roof. I'm always cracking stupid jokes to him while he does all this hard work. The original kitchen. Dad is putting the kitchen soffit drywall in right now. I took one of the old kitchen cabinets out and tried to cut off the bottom a little bit, but just decided to get a new cabinet. Joint compound to hide where the drywall boards meet, and then smoothed it out about a day later. Priming and painting. For the cabinet I decided to replace, I had to buy a walnut cabinet. I decided to paint all the kitchen cabinets just to give it a fresh look. I was doing so much in the kitchen anyways, I thought, might as well. I was doing all new appliances, ceiling, walls. I just thought, yeah, let's do it all. I'm sanding the sides of the new cabinet to help it fit better in there. Measure and good to go. putting tiles up, knocking out those plastic clips, electrical work, doing some cutting for the under cabinet lighting. This is in my music studio, and I'm drilling a hole for a hose to go through for my dehumidifier. So it essentially drains water outside the house, so I don't have to constantly dump the water. I can just let it do its thing. Some more landscaping, getting the paint off my old interior doors to sand them and then repaint them, freshen them up a little bit. And here's the final results. This is the living room with Chief just chilling. You can see paint on the floor. Easy enough to clean up, luckily. But these are the countertops, the tiles, the cabinets, new appliances, new lighting, new paint, same tiredness. And going to the dining room. That's my grandparents' oriental rug I really love. The master bedroom. I learned a lot from watching my dad do this bathroom, which is the master bathroom. Dad and I got a lot of ideas for this bathroom online. We settled for a nice, bright, open space, urban farmhouse vibe with recessed lighting and a rain shower as well, with matte black hardware everywhere. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching my really 2-year journey of home renovation and yard renovation. Bunnies, a German Shepherd, and lots of dust. A lot of good times in the last 2 years, a lot of good life lived, and hopefully Chief and I can relax a little bit more now that the house is finished. There's no major projects left, I don't think, unless I think of something at 2 in the morning, then I'm in trouble. But I have links in the description for my favorite tools that I found throughout this whole journey, and I hope they help you as well if you want to check them out. And until next time, thanks again for watching.